All right, let me try that again. Looks like I just started. Do you want to comment and let me know if my audio is coming in, if you can hear everything just fine? Yes, audio is good. Okay, cool. Nice. Very cool. I'm going to go ahead and throw up one more message on Instagram just to let people know one last time that this is live. So people can trickle in and we can have a good old time, get as many people here as possible. In the meantime, while we're getting set up, go ahead and take a second and let me know where you guys are joining from. I'm always curious about that. All right, hey Instagram, just letting you guys know if you are interested in joining the live stream on how to get freelance or how to start getting freelance clients, go ahead and follow the link in my bio. We are now live. We're gonna hang out casually for about the next hour or so. Hope to see you there. Awesome, thanks for letting me do that. Cool, so we've got, let's see who we have here. We've got someone from Brazil. We've got someone here from Taiwan. So we got Side Effect from Taiwan. Cheers. Yuri is here from Brazil. We've got Mario from Bulgaria. That's sweet. Joshua from the UK. Rita from Belgium. Kieran from India. Wow, we have such an awesome representation. Jiro from Argentina. Jay from Seattle. Oh, Jay, what's up, man? Been a minute. Jonathan from the UK. Atharva from India. Simon from Germany. Wow. Joan from Barcelona. What's up, man? Shin from China. Hopefully I said that right. We've got Alvaro from Spain. Heiko's hanging out from Germany. Revel from Turkey. George from London. Wow, we've got awesome representation. Sweet, guys. This is fun. This is cool. So as I might have mentioned just a bit ago, this is my second ever live stream. So if I'm awkward at it or if I mess something up, please forgive me. But I'm looking forward to trying to do something a little bit different. I thought with each Monday publishing a new kind of a new keyshot or somewhat technical rendering tutorial, this would be kind of an interesting and kind of a complimentary series that would kind of bookend the week. So I thought it'd be sweet to do a casual hangout like every Friday, but not just aimless talking. The idea would be that each week I'll check in with everyone on Instagram or on my email list or wherever and find out what you guys are interested in hearing about. And then the goal would be to kind of prep a little bit. I've got some bullet points I'm going to run through today just to have a loose structure. And then of course, once we get through that, any sort of Q&A, anything like that, I'd love to chat and hang out. So that's kind of what we're going to be doing today. And today may be, the first few of these live streams may be just me kind of getting into a routine and really getting comfortable with all this. But hopefully it'll be a fun way to connect on a regular basis. Again, I know we're all kind of holed up in our own little corners of the world. So I don't know. I think it'll be fun. Let's see. I'm going to do my best to balance keeping an eye on the comments, but also keeping on track and trying to offer as much little pointers as I can that will help you guys out. Sweet. Looks like the audio and video is coming in pretty good. I actually chose to stream in 1080 because I was concerned about bandwidth. I'm not sure if that's still an issue. It looks like I have a great connection, so maybe next time I'll try 1440p, which is about the highest I can go since my monitor won't Actually, no, I should be able to do 4K streaming. My monitor won't display full 4K, but my camera, I'm using a Sony A7 III, which sends a 4K signal into my computer. So that should be possible. So anyway, we'll see. Yeah, good audio and video is pretty important. I find that I spend so much time on YouTube myself that I think that that's going to be pretty important going forward. So any suggestions you guys have, I'm always down. Also, preemptively, I live, unfortunately, near some train tracks, and there's every Friday they do lawn work, like maintenance. So I'm already hearing lawnmowers, and eventually we might hear leaf blowers. So I'm hoping that my audio setup doesn't bring too much of that into the conversation. But anyway, let's stop delaying here. We've got about 55 people on here, which is pretty rad. I'm gonna go ahead and I'm gonna be glancing down at my phone a lot because I've made a note with all the bullet points I want to get through today on my phone. But in the future, since this seems to be a pretty cool format that you guys are into, I will look at doing some PDFs or some slideshows, maybe with like Google Slides, and like finding a way to toggle between those and just me talking here. But I got to figure that out. So somebody asked where I am and what time it is. Great question. I should have said that. So I'm in Southern California. So I don't live in LA. I'm about an hour and a half east of LA. So I'm kind of anyone in the US or in California, if you were to head toward Palm Springs from LA, you would pass by where I live. So I'm closer to Riverside. And right now it's 9:09 a.m. So I've got my second cup of coffee here since I'm a morning person. I'm already on to decaf, but I love my coffee, so I'll be sipping coffee pretty much throughout the day. Cool. So I'm gonna try to jump in here and not waste anybody's time. And but later as we go, I'm gonna be kind of curious too to find out timing wise if this works for people. I struggled to choose a time because I know there's people everywhere from Australia to the UK to India to the US. 9 a.m. just happened to work on my schedule today, so we'll see. I also don't know weekends versus weekdays what works for you guys. I don't know how many of you go into an office still and have to work around employers, if this is a inconvenient time for you guys, but these are all things we can discuss later. Couple more people in here. I see a familiar name, Derek Elliott's live. That's sweet. Love your tutorials, man. So it's 9:45 p.m. where somebody else is from. Yeah, it's crazy how it's all over the world, all different time zones. All right, guys. So I'm gonna try to jump into this. So when I asked about, so actually it was a few months ago that a couple months ago that I put a poll out on Instagram asking people what topics they'd be interested in hearing about if I was to do the series. And I got a ton of responses. So if you replied to anything I did on Instagram, thank you so much. I went ahead and saved all those in a file. And I feel bad because sometimes I ask you guys to let me know what to do next on Instagram. And then I have to file it away for like a month or two while my schedule clears up so I can actually act on that. So this is the first attempt at that. So I had tons of great recommendations, and the first two on the list were time management for freelancers and then how to start getting freelance clients. And when I asked you guys again, almost everybody, hands down, like 200 to 1, basically said, we want to know how to get more freelance clients or start getting freelance clients. So, and to split hairs, those are actually two different topics in my opinion. You do different things to get more clients if you're already working as a freelancer than you do to just start getting freelance clients. And so this is particularly going to focus on starting out if you guys haven't done that yet. And I also want to throw a disclaimer out there. I'm not a pro. Yes, I do freelance professionally, but like I started my business a year ago. So I have less experience than some people. And I've learned a lot along the way, and I'm going to do my best to share as much as I know with you guys. Okay, so we're gonna start this off with me assuming that your work is already good enough to start freelancing. And I know that sounds a little obvious and harsh, but the point here is that I'm going to assume that your work is at a level that somebody is willing to pay you for it. And that is how you're going to know if you're ready. If a company or an individual is willing to pay for your services, then you are ready to jump in. And so how do you find out? You know, it's like you kind of have to get that first client basically. And anyone who saw the video I put out a while ago about my professional journey, you might remember that I got my first client on Craigslist. Not a really glamorous marketplace, and you know, you're not going to find the super huge gigs and the big recognizable brand names looking for freelancers on Craigslist. But at the time, that's just what I did, and it turns out that it worked. It worked for me. So when you're starting out, you're going to need to kind of pay your dues, so to speak. And I know that stinks, but everyone has to start somewhere. And I would encourage you to look at your first maybe 3 freelance clients as learning opportunities, not money-making opportunities. And I know that is counterintuitive, but this is key because you're going to learn so much on those first 3 gigs that it would almost be, in my mind, I was like, oh, it's almost criminal if I'm charging somebody because I'm being really inefficient with my time. On those first 3 gigs I had, I was not fast at what I was doing. I was doing a lot of trial and error, a lot of research, a lot of Googling and watching a lot of tutorials to figure out what I had to do to get my client what they wanted. So you shouldn't be billing them a lot of money if most of the time you're learning yourself and not just producing work for them. So just as a reminder, I think that it's good to charge money for your first few gigs, but not a lot, and don't set your expectations super high. This is good for a couple of reasons. The client that you service for not a super high fee is going to be stoked when you're actually able to give them what they wanted at a very good deal. And then think of this, the fact that you're not making as much money from it, think of that as an education tax. You're kind of earning less because it's an opportunity that this client is gracious enough to afford you because you're going to have to do some learning on the job, okay? So that's the first thing I really want to get out of the way is that mindset when you begin, you're going to need to lower some expectations. And this is also why I recommend having a full-time job when you start freelancing. I don't think it's good to quit your job immediately to go into freelancing. And if you're fresh out of college and you haven't had work experience, I still think I don't discourage starting to freelance, but I still think you should prioritize getting a job where you can learn from people in an industry that you're interested in, because no matter where you get a job, you're going to learn something. Even if it's at a restaurant, even if it's at, I don't know, something that's unrelated to the design work that you want to do, every single job, anyone who will ever hire you is running a business that makes enough money to pay for you. And that's probably, that's a huge accomplishment on its own. So if you can learn from that business what they're doing to earn that money, to be able to afford to pay you, then that's part of your education as well. So just throwing those guys out there to start. Now let's actually, that's my whole preamble. I know that that's a lot, but the last thing I'll say is, aim for, so how good is good enough before you start freelancing? I'm going to say aim for 80% proficiency. And what I mean by that is if your goal is 100% and that is like what you think the average skills that your clients may be going to. If you look around at, let's say you're a 3D modeling guy or gal, and you're going to offer CAD services, and you look around, your portfolio and your skills should be about 80% as good as the average user, the average professional. Let me say that, the average professional. So in a lot of business cases, 80% is about good enough to give the client what they want, and then as your skills go up over time, you're going to charge more and work with bigger clients. So start in the beginning with smaller clients and charge them less, basically. So, okay. So now I'm going to get into the first main topic. I'm going to pause before I do that just to take a look at the comments real quick. Let's see. Cool. Just making sure there's nothing critical I got to respond to. What if you're already good at what you do? Man, then you should be teaching this class, Mario. No, I'm sorry. Don't take that the wrong way. I'm just having fun with you. What if you're already good at what you do? Then you can skip working with small clients, and we'll get into that. That's cool. I love that. Okay, so the first thing that I want to start by saying is, with the way this question was worded, a lot of people say, "How do I find freelance clients?" And I want to rephrase that or frame that in a way, because finding a freelance client doesn't mean that someone's going to pay you. Your goal is to get a company who's willing to pay you for your services. So it's not so much finding the clients, it's that you need someone who's ready and willing to pay for your services. So we find out how to do that by looking at this question: why do clients hire freelancers to begin with? Okay, you got to know that first. Usually, in my experience, companies are going to hire a freelancer when they don't have enough bandwidth to do the work that they need done. So that's one. Everyone on their team is already too busy, so they're looking for more temporary work to alleviate the pain of everyone being overworked. So that's one reason people hire freelancers. Another one is technical limitations. So let's say they have basic, in my case, it's a lot of times people have some basic rendering skills in-house, but then they're going to unveil a product globally, but they need some like flashy animation skills because they want more of a product commercial. And while the guys or the gals who work at that company can do some basic renderings, they're not up to snuff on creating like production level animations. So technical skills. If you have a skill that goes beyond what they have in-house, then they're likely to hire you for a specific project. The next thing is creative limitations, and this is one that's often overlooked. So a lot of designers out there are good technicians, meaning they know the software, they can push the buttons, they know how to operate the software. However, what really separates the most successful freelancers or independent creatives is their ability to be creative. And I know it sounds stupid, but like what I mean is their vision. Think of your favorite musicians, your favorite directors for films or painters or whatever. What makes them better than anyone else out there? It's because they have a unique story, a unique vision. They're creative in what they're doing. So if you have this kind of signature look or style or attitude about what you do, that's your creative brand that a company may hire. So if a company has a fairly traditional or unexciting product, but they're hoping to appeal to a different audience, then they may want to bring in someone who's got more of a creative vision. And that's where, if they don't have that in-house, they may hire you for a project. And then lastly, companies might hire a freelancer to save money, so they don't have to hire, say, a new part-time or a full-time employee. I'm going to go ahead and say right now, try not to work with someone who's hiring freelancers simply to save money. I'm going to say right up front, competing on price is only something you do for a very short period of time in the very beginning of your career, ideally, okay? So if clients normally hire freelancers because they don't have enough internal bandwidth, they don't have enough technical abilities in-house, or they don't have the creative vision in-house to bring what they want to market or to life, then those are the things that that's what they're looking for. That's why they're trying to hire you. And that's what you need to keep in mind when you go put your kind of hang your shingle up, so to speak, so people can find you. So now, why don't clients hire freelancers? This is the other side of this question. We know why they do hire freelancers, but why do they sometimes choose not to hire freelancers? And that's because, one, they don't know you exist. This is the biggest thing here. Most of us, when you say, I can't find freelance clients, or how do I start? The big thing is they need to know that you exist. And if they know you exist, they're more likely to hire you. They're guaranteed to not hire you if they don't know that you exist. Next is they don't trust you. So a client doesn't, a company or a client doesn't hire a freelancer that they don't trust. And if they never worked with you before, how the heck are they going to trust you once they find out that you exist? So we're going to get into this. I'm going to answer these questions. I'm not just throwing a bunch of questions at you. But we need to keep in mind these barriers that clients face when they go to hire freelancers. So either they don't know you exist, they don't trust you, maybe they don't like you. This is another big thing. If you have a fairly outspoken or abrasive personality online or in person, believe it or not, that weighs heavily on whether or not somebody hires you. If you're annoying to be around, you're not going to get hired. No one's going to want to work with you. Likewise, I've turned clients away that I thought were not a good cultural fit. When I had a first meeting with them face to face, I was like, sorry, I can already tell in the pit of my stomach I'm going to hate working with them. So I just had to politely pass them along and say, sorry, my schedule's too full. Sometimes it's just not a fit. And lastly, they may not hire you if they can't afford you. So every company has a budget. You need to work on being competitive, but also earning your fee that you deserve. And not every company is going to be able to pay that, especially in the beginning if you're working with smaller clients. So now that we know the reasons clients hire freelancers and then the barriers that they run into when they start looking for freelancers, I'll add one more that I can think of off the top of my head. They also don't hire freelancers if it seems like it's going to take a lot of time and effort. If you've never worked in a professional position before, you may not be aware of how much time and effort and resources it takes to actually interview and hire and vet and onboard and train somebody. It is a huge undertaking, and if someone's already busy and overwhelmed at work, the last thing they want to do is put effort into chasing down freelancers. It really is not easy. So if you can make it easy for them, that's a huge win, and we'll get into that. So what does all this mean? You have a few goals, and we're going to talk about how you can achieve those goals, and this is how you're going to increase your likelihood for getting those client gigs. I'm going to take a pause real quick to check out the comments again, since I have nobody else moderating here. Let's see. What's a good price to charge? Ooh, I think that's a good topic for another live stream. I'm more than happy to get into pricing. What's up? Lots more people in here. Lots of technical questions. Unfortunately, I'm not going to get into answering technical questions of software yet on this, but questions on Upwork and Fiverr. So these are some good ones. Good questions that are so anything that's relevant to our topic right now, to freelancing or finding clients, hold those and we'll have a Q&A at the end, and I'll be more than happy to talk on those in real time, which I think is great. Okay. So your goals here are now that we know that a client has certain obstacles they have to overcome when they go to hire freelancers, those are now our mission. As a freelancer, your mission is to overcome or remove those obstacles from your client. And so the first one is that let's make sure a client can easily find you. This is the biggest, most obvious one. So in the past, full disclaimer, I did freelance for a couple of years from 2014 to 2016, and it was very hard. I kind of barely scraped by. It was not profitable. I was paycheck to paycheck, even borrowing money sometimes. So that didn't work. I tried for a couple of years and it was hard. Now, there was a lot of reasons it didn't work out, and we can get into that on a later topic. But what I know now is that I was making a lot of mistakes then, but what's more important is what I was not doing. It's not that I was doing things wrong, it's that I simply wasn't doing the right things. And that's what I want to give you, is some guidance and ideas of what right things you can do to stay busy with clients. So first and foremost, they have to be able to easily find you. Now, I started really building an online presence. Let's see, I started blogging in 2013. I started writing small, like a little Tumblr blog or something. I don't even know what it was. I started writing very short, like 2 or 3 paragraph essays on design and technology before anyone was paying attention. And then I started putting a lot of time into like LinkedIn and a little bit of Instagram in 2014. I think is when I started doing that for design. And writing articles on Medium, publishing them on, I've always kept a website with like a blog with articles and stuff. And then just lately I've started focusing on some more video content, of course. But the point being is that I have been chipping away steadily, putting a lot of content online. And that increases the likelihood that someone's going to find me. And so if you're not constantly or continually putting more good content out there, think of every little piece of content you publish online as a little beacon, like a little lighthouse that could lead someone back to you. And the stronger the piece of content, and the more the more likely it is to lead somebody to you. So I don't use Facebook, and I don't really use Twitter. I have one, but I stopped using it. So I only use a little bit of LinkedIn, a fair bit of Instagram, but I'm getting burnt out on Instagram, to be honest. And now I'm all in on YouTube. So and my website. So I really like finding a platform that resonates with you, that you feel comfortable at, that you really click with people on, and then double down on that. And the content you put on there needs to not be salesy or promotional. It needs to actually be helpful. And I know, again, you've heard this, deliver value, yada, yada, yada. But don't overthink it. Simply ask yourself don't put out a piece of content that you wouldn't want to like, if that makes sense. If you're, in the past, I felt like burned out or intimidated about trying to do freelance. So I actually wrote just an off-the-cuff post about a week ago on LinkedIn that's actually been quite popular. And it was just me kind of offering a nudge to a lot of people saying, hey, a lot of things have changed lately. A lot of us are at home. Some of us lost jobs. If you ever thought about freelancing, give it a shot, because I think if you've thought about it, you should try it. You have so little to lose and everything to gain. And it was just supposed to be encouraging, but a lot of people, it resonated with a lot of people. And some of them said, this is what I needed to hear. So that's the type of content I'm talking about. Put out something that's encouraging, motivational, helpful. Maybe you learn something new and you're like, I figured out how to do a new thing. I want you to know how to do it. So here, I'm going to share it with you. That's the type of thing that is going to lead people to you and start to gain their trust and things like that long before you ask them about working with them. Okay, so you got to make it easy to find you. So you need to be putting out pieces of content. Consider this: meet your potential employers where they're looking. So I'm not big on Facebook. I'm not on Facebook at all, really, but I'm big on LinkedIn, because I knew from an early stage that if I wanted to freelance or start my own business, that the people who would be potential clients are going to be on LinkedIn. They're probably not spending all day on Facebook. Now, there are other people who maybe Facebook is a good, like, let's say you're a professional dog trainer. You should be on Facebook. You're going to find more people who will respond, who will be your clients there. But if I'm more of a B2B, a business to business, if I'm going to try to sell my services to a studio or a company, then I need to be on LinkedIn where people are actively looking. And LinkedIn is almost a social network where it's like, it's okay to be on there when you're at work. So I'm more likely to engage with people there. So think about going where your clients may be hanging out. If you're a videographer, you should be on LinkedIn, or sorry, not LinkedIn, Vimeo and YouTube, and really active on those socials where people are going to be, maybe even Behance, things like that. So then ask yourself, what are they searching for, these potential clients of yours? Are they looking for something like the word freelancer? Are they looking for a studio or an agency? Do they need renderings? Do they need CAD work? Every piece of content you put out on the platform that your potential clients are hanging out on should try to align with the thing they're looking for. So if I'm trying to get more animation work, I need to, and actually this is an interesting insight. I did want to start doing more animation work this past year. So I realized I didn't have that much, even though I knew a fair bit about animation because I trained KeyShot before, I didn't actually have a lot of good examples myself. So I gave myself 1 week to pull together a show reel or a demo reel for animation. And I combed through a bunch of old projects I had kicking around on the computer, some were a couple years old, and I pulled all the animations, put them in a folder, and I looked at some other, I looked at some projects that had some like pretty strong compositions, and I'm like, what if I just do a simple camera animation and re-render this out, that type of thing. And then I basically crammed, I used 1 week to get together a demo reel or a show reel. And then I put it on LinkedIn. I'm getting everything mixed up. I put it on YouTube and I titled it like Will Gibbons Design Freelance, or I think product animation studio or demo reel or something. The point was that the piece of content was titled whatever I thought my client would be looking for. So when they searched it online, there's a high likelihood that my demo reel is going to pop up, and then they come to me. And it's been fairly recent that I've been getting a lot more consistent, strong, qualified leads, and it's because a lot of them are finding me on YouTube. Not just through that one video. In fact, it's through all the teaching content I've put on YouTube, and we'll come back to that. But so start by asking yourself, what is your potential client looking for, and make sure that the keywords and the subjects of what they're searching for is at the root of the piece of content that you're putting out there. So let's say you wanted to be an instructor and you have a software that you know really well. If a lot of your clients, if you want to sell a training program, then you need to make sure that you are constantly demonstrating that you are good at training people. And so you will be putting out free tutorials. If somebody sees that piece of free content, you build trust and they already start to wonder if they could pay you for that service type of thing, okay? I'm gonna take a quick pause to look at the comments here. I've seen quite a few things coming in. Man, great question jumps out. What do I think about working for free? Very good question. Probably only on one circumstance would I do that, because it's tough. I'm gonna try to, okay, again, anyone who has a really good question, try to type it in later for the Q&A. Otherwise, I'll come back through these, because there's some really good ones in here I'd love to talk to, but I don't want to derail a conversation for anyone who's trying to attend for this entire, we're going to call this a lecture, as boring as that sounds. Okay. Keep the comments coming, guys. I will get back to them by the end, okay? Lastly, okay, this seems dumb, but as far as making it easy for them to find you, your clients, make your email address or some email address easily available. I make my email address, will@willgibbons.com, publicly available everywhere. I don't have a separate email for inbound leads, as much as I'm tempted to do that. If you're concerned about your privacy and keeping a separate email account totally isolated, set up a new free Gmail account called so if my email is willgibbons@gmail.com, I could create a new email that says hello willgibbons@gmail.com. You know what I mean? And that's like the email that you publish everywhere, and you're okay if it gets spam email, but you know that that's the email address you're going to open every time you go to look at new customer leads. Your contact info has to be somewhere, not somewhere, it needs to be attached to nearly every piece of your content. It should be pretty much in your social profiles, your bios, your footers of the website, the contact page, really pretty much everywhere. Don't make it hard for people to find you. Yeah, anyway, enough about that. So make it easy to find you. That's the huge one. And start publishing content on those networks. So the next one is make it easy for a client to trust you. So first we had client doesn't know that you exist. So start by making it easy for a client to find you. Next, they don't trust you, right? We talked about that. So how do we make it easy for a client to trust us if we've never interacted with them before? The first step is your work. That's the easiest one. Your portfolio, if it's good enough, will win the trust of somebody and they will hire you. A company who is willing to pay good money for the best work out there, I'm not going to drop names here, but think of some of the biggest or most well-known or sought-after designers in your field. Their really, really strong portfolio. Their work, I hate to say it, but kind of speaks for themselves. Those people are getting lots of requests because their work is so strong, and And that's going to be the number one thing. If you have a few rotten eggs in your portfolio, it's a big turnoff. That loses confidence because your employer goes, well, they don't know the difference between good work and bad work. And if they're showing me mediocre or bad work, what if I pay them and they do bad work for me? That's no good. So really, smaller portfolio with only strong pieces. Don't include anything that's so-so. Don't feel like you got to fill out your portfolio. Literally, this small portfolio is fine. A good example, actually, I will throw out a name. Cornelius Damrick. He comes to mind. I know he does a lot of work, but he doesn't publish everything he does. He's really good at self-editing, and he publishes finished pieces very infrequently. I want to say every few months, maybe once a year, he comes out with a new piece, and they're all stellar. He does so much detail work. So when you go to his website, it's not like it's brimming with new projects all the time, but when he drops something, it's always a home run. And that's the type of confidence and self-editing that you want to have in your portfolio. And that makes it easy for someone to hire you. Okay, that's obvious, but what else? The next way you can make it easy for them to trust you is professionalism. We're not all communication majors, I get it. We're not all public speakers, but being professional is absolutely paramount. And this is another reason why it's good to go to and work for a company before you start freelancing on your own. So professionalism goes beyond just how you dress. In fact, I honestly don't think dressing is a huge part of professionalism unless you're going to a public workspace like in an office. But the number one thing for me is clear communication. A professional person communicates clearly. They're not careless with the words they use. They don't send out emails with poor grammar and missing punctuation. They read everything twice before they post it so it doesn't get misinterpreted. And when you're on the phone or the email, they don't cut corners. They make sure that they're understood before moving on. So start with clear communication because it shows a client that you're detail-oriented, that you care about the details, and they will then connect those traits to the work that you're going to do for them potentially. So have clear communication, absolutely always. Next is email etiquette. This is one that drives me nuts. We all send a lot of emails. We all receive a lot of emails. I hate email. I hate the amount of time I spend in my email inbox. Let me at least say that. So when people send me emails that are carelessly composed and missing information and things like that, it's just a pain in the butt. It's just such a pet peeve. If you spend the extra 5 seconds or 20 seconds or 2 minutes to make sure an email is thorough, not missing any attachments, make sure that one word isn't spelled or misspelled in such a way that it changes the entire meaning of the email. These are really important things, okay? Everyone will judge you by the way your emails are composed. So make sure you have good email etiquette. Another thing, don't reply all unless, be careful when replying all. And don't send follow-up emails that are just one word that say thanks or got it. Like that's the worst. Like don't clutter people's inboxes. Every time you send an email, you should be thinking 1 or 2 email steps ahead to try to reduce the number of responses it's going to take to finish that conversation, okay? I could do an entire one of these episodes on email etiquette. I really like that topic. Next one is punctuality. You're going to be able to win the trust of someone if you are always on time. My favorite saying, and I don't know, maybe it's lifted from the military or something, I don't know, but it goes like, if you're early, you're on time. If you're on time, you're late. And if you're late, you're screwed, or something like that. Point being, just by showing up at the time. So if we had a meeting and you show up right at 9 for your client, technically, yes, you may be on time, but like it shows that you are not totally prepared. You didn't come ahead of time. If you come just a few minutes early, if you arrive at a meeting a little bit before it starts, it shows that you care and respect their time enough to not make them wait. Never should a client be waiting on you to join a meeting or a call. It should always be the other way around. That goes a long way to win the respect of a client, okay? The next one is organization. Do not be disorganized. I don't care how artistic and creative you are. I don't care that you're a special little snowflake and you're the designer type that lives in a sea of chaos. People don't, when you're being paid to do what you do, you need to do it in a organized manner so you can always find the files you need, always have backups, never lose client work, always be able to quickly access whatever you need. So the structure and organization of your computer and files also becomes really important there too. So always be organized. The next is presence. I was on a call with a client a while ago, and believe it or not, when we were on the three-way Zoom call, the owner of the company was scrolling through their phone and just wasn't paying attention. They were kind of checked out. Well, this is the first time we're meeting and I'm talking with them, and it immediately made me disengage with the conversation, because if someone's not listening or not even paying attention, like what's the why should I keep going on? Why should I keep talking at that point? It's really distracting. So always be present, even on a phone call. Make sure that you're engaging and listening to what they're saying. Okay, that goes a long way. Second to last, we have language. This is very personal and cultural. If you're talking with a client and they're very they're kind of dropping, their swears right and left, and they're very kind of slang oriented, it's probably okay. They're not going to look down if you kind of copy the same or follow their lead there. But don't go and start using a bunch of slang and being offensive, saying expletives if you're talking to a bunch of high level professionals. It's going to make you look like you don't, again, care or respect their business. So just consider that. And last but not least, never vent publicly. This one's hard. I know we live in a weird time. Social media seems to be everybody's outlet for sharing what they think about things, and we all get frustrated. I am with you guys. It is very tempting to share with the world how I think about certain things. Politics, being probably the most obvious one. But the point being, whether you had a bad day or worked with a poor client or a project didn't go well, or it's something bigger, it's stress, it's money, it's politics, it's whatever, it's keep those to your inner circle of friends. Go ahead and talk, but don't share those publicly on social media. This is my personal opinion. You may disagree, and that's okay if it's not a popular belief. But I think if a client goes looking at your work, that's mostly your portfolio, and then there's a few random rants about your point of view on someone or something, I don't think that does anything to further your business, unless it is all about the cause that you believe in, that your target client needs to believe in as well. Okay, so just consider that. I don't want to dwell on this too long. The next one is social proof. So we're talking still about how do we make it easy for a client to trust us? Well, social proof is another good one. If you have previous clients, or as you work with more clients, add them to your client list. That's going to give you social proof. Guest appearances. So if you can appear on somebody else's podcast, blog, interview, that type of thing, anywhere else you can show up, that's going to raise the how trustworthy you can be, because they're going to say, oh, if someone trusts so-and-so to have them on their show, their podcast, their blog, or whatever it may be, even a guest post on an Instagram is fine. That always helps. Next is collaboration. It's pretty similar, but if you can do a live stream hangout with somebody, if you can work on a project together where you guys both take your skills and bring what you're good at to a project, that's good. And make sure that you get tagged and stuff, that type of thing. Again, sorry if the leaf blowers start to come in. There's nothing I can do about that. So if there's a humming in the background, guys, really, really sorry. Hang in there. And the last thing is tags on social media, of course. So when I started my YouTube tutorial series, I asked every one of you to start tagging me, and I'd share as much of your work as I could. And I did. And that's fine. It's great. I love it. I love calling out and sharing what you guys do after you learn from a tutorial. And of course, because of that, I had very many people discovering me for the first time who wouldn't have known that I exist otherwise. It wasn't necessarily for my own personal gain. It was just a way of saying, hey, if you follow my tutorial, I'd love to share your work with my audience. And then it got to be a lot. I got a little bit, it was like too much to keep up with actually after a while. So I kind of had to pull back on that. But anyway, next I want to say is authority. This is huge. Clients will trust you if you have authority, but how do you build authority to begin with? Number one is teaching. You can build authority by teaching. You don't have to be the best, because Lord knows I'm not the best at what I do, but I teach what I do, and I have a true joy for sharing how to do the things that I'm used to doing with other people. So because I've got a lot of experience using some software, I choose to teach it, and it helps them out. But I'll be honest, almost all of my leads come from people discovering me and seeing that I know how to do this thing quite well. And then that inspires confidence in my skill set. So then they trust that if they come to me, I'll know how to do whatever they want me to do. So teaching, even if you're, they have this thing called the leading learner. If you learn something new, then there's always going to be people who don't know that thing. So if you learn something on a personal project over the weekend, let's say you learn how to do a physics simulation in Blender. Awesome. Make a video on that, sharing that with other people, and make that video as educational and entertaining and informative as you possibly can. And some people will learn from it. And that will put you in a position of authority right there. Next is writing. So I write blog posts. I used to do a lot more, but writing is not dead. I know not as many people read articles, but it is still a pretty critical tool, a thing that you can do to learn how to communicate ideas effectively, and it still puts you in a position of authority. And as more things move to video and spoken content, there's still gonna be this like legacy need for like written content, and having like say an email newsletter is a great platform to learn how to write and communicate with people. And last, it's similar, but publishing. Publish as much content in whatever medium or format you prefer, but by publishing more ideas and sharing your own personal unique point of view that's based on some sort of experience you've had is also very important to build that authority. Woo, okay guys, this is a lot, this is intense. I'm gonna try to make it through this. We've got one more section here, testimonials. So this is one more way a client can trust you, is if you have testimonials. So past clients who've worked with you, or it could even be friends or colleagues, if they say, hey, so-and-so is really good at teaching this thing, I learned a lot from them, that is a good testimonial. If a client that you did work with ends up saying, hey, we hired so-and-so to help make these images for our website, and now as a result, our website looks awesome, that is still a good testimonial. And when it comes to testimonials specifically, what I recommend you do, and I've had the most luck with this, is testimonials are a pain in the butt because not everyone's a good writer and not everyone wants to write a testimonial. But if they're happy with your work, they're generally open to the idea of helping you out. So what I recommend that you do is you write the testimonial you wish you could have, send it to them and say, hey, I know you're busy. I was hoping I could get a testimonial from you. Feel free to use this as a guide. And most people are so lazy that they look at it and go, yep, that looks good. Go ahead and publish that. Yes, obviously the leaf blowers are out of control. I'm gonna put things on pause just for a minute. I'm not gonna walk away, but I'm gonna at least explain. We have these trees outside and they drop these like yellow and purple leaves, and they're out of control because we're in spring/summer, and they're such a mess. And now we got these guys with leaf blowers walking around trying to clear the pathway and everything. So I'm gonna go give it a second here. Future live streams are gonna have to be at a different time because this is unacceptable. The noise sucks. Sorry guys. I'll come up with a better time. Comment below or in the chat if weekends are doable for you guys. I try to take weekends off. I work still, but like I know a lot of people have family time on the weekends, but if you're open to it, I might shift this to a Saturday instead of a Friday. Otherwise, maybe it becomes a Friday evening thing. Maybe instead of coffee, there'll be, I don't know, whiskey or something. That could be interesting. But they don't do leaf blowing after like noon. So anyway, I think the worst of it's behind us. Okay, so I'm gonna try to finish this up here. So let's see what we're doing on time. Okay, almost at an hour. Okay, so let's bring this back to where we were. So we know that clients hire freelancers because they don't have the bandwidth to get the job done. They sometimes have technical or creative limitations in-house, or they're trying to save money from hiring a full-time person. Now you, as a freelancer, need to overcome the obstacles that clients have when it comes to hiring freelancers. So they either don't know you exist, we talked about how to do that, they don't trust you, we talked about how to build trust, or they don't like you. Well, that last part on they don't like you, I don't have a lot to say here other than be careful. Don't be too outspoken. Don't be too opinionated. Don't be too argumentative. You can have strong opinions, but don't be a bully when it comes to how you communicate those. Be tolerant, or in doubt, if somebody has a kind of a differing point of view, for the sake of business, it's best to just keep your mouth shut and tolerate some of that, rather than always getting the last word in if you can, okay? And then lastly, they may not hire you because they can't afford you. So in the beginning, I guess regardless in your career of where you are, there's always gonna be clients who can afford you and clients who cannot afford you yet. And you want to make sure that you're only working with clients who can afford to work with you. You don't want to waste a lot of time trying to decide if a client's worth pursuing, all to find out that they only have a budget of, say, $500 when you know the job is a $2,000 job. Money needs to come into the conversation before you write any proposals or anything. And that we can talk on a later live stream about the process of pitching and stuff. I could do that. But anyway, the last thing I want to throw in here is marketing yourself. So I had an interesting conversation the other day where somebody was like, hey, you've done a good job marketing yourself. You know, any tips? And I basically said, it's a good question. I really don't think about it as marketing myself. What I try to do is I try to provide solutions. And I think if everyone tries to provide solutions, as long as they're qualified to do so, you know, then people are going to think of you as the solution. Like, if you can be synonymous with solutions, if you always have an answer to someone's question, if you always can demonstrate how something works, they're likely to come to you. People are likely to come to you when they need something from you. I try to answer every DM and every email, and I'm probably going to regret saying this live because I'm going to get a lot more questions now, but I try to answer every DM and every email that comes in, and I try to do so as quickly as I can. Sometimes not always possible. I write an email newsletter, which is, you can subscribe if you haven't. It's at willgibbons.com/subscribe. And every other week or so, maybe every 2 or 3 weeks, I send out an email to my list, and it has links to the latest free tutorials, new content, cool things I find out. Usually I'll write a unique article that I think is going to be useful. So that is one channel I use to provide solutions and help for those people. I give people more time when I respond if they're on my email newsletter. Also, I create YouTube videos for free showing people how to do things that I've learned how to do. So that's another solutions-based platform. LinkedIn, whenever people hit me up for troubleshooting and technical issues, I try to answer those there. So just try to do your best to always offer solutions, and don't worry about capitalizing or charging people for those solutions. Eventually, that's going to come back to you in much more lucrative manners. If you're always trying to find a way to squeeze a dollar out of every scenario, you're not going to end up winning a lot of. People won't like you as much, and people give business to people they like. Okay, we'll just put it that way. And then last thing is invest in those relationships. There's a good book that's legendary called How to Win Friends and Influence People by Dale Carnegie, I believe. I've only listened, I think I've listened to it a couple times, but it's quite good. It's old school, and it's a lot of like just old man wisdom, but it's very, very filled with these like gems of how to get people to really know, like, and trust you. And when it comes to the most successful business people in the world, that is the number one thing they do differently, is they learn how to be, they know how to be liked. You know, everyone likes them, so they get the business and they get people to care about what they're doing. So at this point, geez, leaf blower city. I'm gonna take a pause real quick. I'm looking through the comments. It looks like some people are saying weekends would be good for them, so that's cool. Okay. We got some votes for Whiskey and Will. Oh boy, Whiskey with Will. I'm a little concerned. I do monetize this channel. I want to make sure everything stays family friendly. So I need to be careful about that. But we'll see. Okay, so here we go. I've given you guys a lot of this high-level theory stuff. So if you're beginning, I could see you going, yeah, well, he's talking around the subject. What do I literally do? What are my actionable steps here? And I hear you there. But the reason I'm trying to give you this high-level framework is because I don't want to give you a recipe to follow. I want to give you an intuition and a framework that you can, that's flexible enough for you to apply to your own situation. So the idea is that you need to start by identifying why clients are going to hire you, what they're looking for, how they're trying to search for you, and then you need to meet them at all of those spots or locations. And then all the other things I added in there is like, how do you build authority? How do you get them to trust you? How do you get them to like you? Those are all things that you're going to work on continuously for years and years. It's never done. You don't just check it off a list like, great, I got a testimonial, move on. No, you want to continue to grow that and get better and better at that over the years, just like your portfolio is going to ever evolve. Now, as far as further education on this, I'm going to give you a few tips that are going to give you much more information than I have, but here are some of the things that I've learned the most from over the years as far as business and being able to start getting more clients and stuff. And the first one I'm going to call out is this book, The Freelance Manifesto. This is by Joey Kornman. This guy ran or runs or did, I don't remember exactly, a motion design studio. And then he also runs School of Motion. He's got a podcast. It's a very, very well-written book. Very easy to read. Very, very valuable information in here. Worth every cent. It is linked below in the description. So if you're looking for a book to read that's easy to get through, that's not boring, but also gives you actionable steps, buy it. Don't think about it, just buy it. And if you do use my link down below, I do get a little Amazon commish. So that's nice. It's like it won't cost you anything, but it's a nice way to say that you like this video and got something out of it. Now, another thing I'm going to suggest is a website called Fizzle, FIZZLE.co. Also linked down below. No affiliation there, but I used them for about 2 or 3 years, and they have this massive online community and library of courses and mentorship and stuff. And it's all about how to create a business that you're passionate about online that you really like. And it is such a good community. I learned almost everything I know about online business from them. Very good people. They've got a great podcast as well that goes along with it. I love it. So that's Fizzle. Another article I want to point out is linked below, and it's written by a guy named Kevin Kelly, and it's called 1000 True Fans. So if you've been in the online space for a while, you've probably heard this reference before, but it's a really intelligent piece that became very popular, kind of viral, if you will. And it talks about how you don't need to make millions. You don't have to have that big of a following. You just need to build 1,000 true fans. And these are people who share your values and are behind you and are going to support you in whatever you do. And these are the people that you should be this is the audience you should be trying to build. Not just chasing numbers, not just chasing likes. Those don't mean anything. You want to build true fans, people that you have true relationships with, and people who believe in your cause. I'm not going to try to hide it. This format of video, this live stream with me doing kind of lectures on topics that I care about, that I think are helpful, this is me trying to build true fans out of all of you guys who are here. And it's not because I selfishly want the fans, it's because we all need a network. We all thrive on social interaction and sharing ideas and stuff. So that's why I'm doing this. And I think if you read that article, you're going to learn a lot. The last thing I'm going to give you is a thing called Creative Class. It's by a guy named Paul Jarvis, who is a awesome writer who lives up in Canada, in Vancouver. He's a bit of a role model of mine. He's been really big in the online space as a writer, and he used to be a website designer, and now he does more products and consulting. And he's just a really smart guy. He wrote a book called Company of One last year about why it's good to not always scale your business. And his creative class is, I don't know how much it costs, around $300. It's very affordable for how good it is. And it takes you through loads of lectures, and there's tons of documents and templates. There's even a legal contract you can use that he got a lawyer to put together for you guys that's included in the price, I believe. It's super good. So that's creativeclass.co. They also have a podcast as well. So those are the things that I would say if I was going back 5 years ago, or telling you if you're earlier on in your career, these are the things I would say you're going to get the most out of if you go and invest in those websites or communities or bits of learning content. And there's something there for everyone. I think this book is like $15. I think Fizzle's like close to $400 a year. I think Creative Class is like $300-ish, and it's a one-time fee forever. It's not a subscription. And Kevin Kelly's 1,000 True Fans, that's absolutely free if you have no money to spend on anything. So hopefully there's something there for everybody here. And lastly, I will say, as you keep all this in mind when you go about finding freelance clients, again, you got to start somewhere. You're going to pick up one or two, actually just start with one, give them a heck of a deal. Tell them that, be honest with them. Tell them that you're fairly new and that you're willing to work with them on price, and look at that as a learning opportunity. Be as professional as you can, because if you nail that job, the person who hired you has the ability to refer you to a ton more people. And if they're a business owner, they have a network of fellow business owners and friends, and you will get clients from them. This is how I got started. This is how almost everyone I know got started. The number one thing you can do to increase your chances of getting more work is to do a good job. Bend over backward for your client. Now, when you get into working with jobs that are bigger companies with a lot more money involved and a lot more on the line, you're going to build your confidence and your leverage, and you're going to be able to push back on those clients and kind of hold your ground and be the true expert in the room. But like, that takes a little while to get there. So start small and don't worry about where you think you want to be. Start by focusing on the job and just knock it out of the park and create a good reputation for yourself, because that is the thing that will lead to more and more work. And then as you try to get busier, just keep sharing that content online and make sure that content is something that your potential client or other people can learn from, and make sure it's, optimistic and good natured and not, doesn't leave a bad taste in someone's mouth. All those things together, I think, is what will ultimately help you start getting freelance clients in the beginning, and then continue to get more and more freelance clients. So with that, we're at 1 hour and 3 minutes. I'm going to go ahead and say, anyone who needs to hop off, it was so good having you on here. It was awesome to hear from everyone. I'm blown away by how many people attended from different parts of the world. I just think it's awesome. Sorry for the leaf blowers. We're going to work on that. I'm going to schedule this at a different time in the future. And I'm going to I think we'll go for 27-ish more minutes. I'm going to go ahead and read through the comments and try to answer as many questions as you guys have until we're done. And then I'm going to have to get off because I have a client meeting in about 45 minutes. I have a call with another client. So we're finishing the week strong. Okay. So I'm going to scroll up. There were a few good comments I really did want to get to. So first major question that jumped out at me, someone said local clients or global clients initially. I started local. For me in the US, Craigslist was local. So that meant that we met at a Starbucks. So we met in a neutral environment, and I asked the guy, hey, here I am. Thanks for your time. What can I help you with? I didn't know what I was doing, but that's okay. I like going to a coffee shop or a bar because it's really casual, and you can really quickly get an idea of like what that person's going to be like to work with. And you're not agreeing to anything right on the spot. You're just getting information. So I say start local. But if you live in, like, now I live in a place that's in the middle of nowhere and there's not a lot of good local business that I could serve. So for me, I now operate only online, and I don't work with anyone local, to be honest. I've worked with the majority of my clients are now all over the world. And to be quite honest, I prefer not meeting in person. But I do like face-to-face Zoom calls when I can. That's good. Okay, so I say start off local if you can, but if you live in the middle of nowhere, use the internet. You can get clients from anywhere. The next question is, what if you're already good at what you do? Great, that means that you can start charging more. Don't start by giving them a big discount. Understand the value of your work and make sure that your prices are fair. So understand what the average going rate for what you do is, meaning what are other people already charging for that service, and then judge your work. If your work's better than average, then maybe start at the fair market value and then bump it up 10 or 20%. Now, the only way you'll know if you're charging too much is if clients reach out to work with you and you're getting them all saying that you're too expensive. Like, let's say out of 10 inquiries, let's say 7 or 8 of them are saying you're too expensive, then that probably means you're too expensive. If 40 or 50% of clients cannot afford your services, then I'd say you're in a pretty good spot. And then you go from there. Okay, so what other questions we have? What's a good price to charge for a rendering when starting out? Interested in jewelry, rendering, and such. Okay, this is one where I'm not gonna give you a dollar value for. I would love to do another webinar on pricing strategy because I don't charge people per rendering. That's not how it works. You have an expertise that you have built over assuming quite a long period of time. You have equipment that you pay for, software and hardware. You've got overhead, you've got, expertise, all that stuff. When you start itemizing things like I will charge you this for one rendering, or I will charge you this amount per hour, the hard thing with that is when you start to increase your rates, people find it hard to spend a certain amount on one item. And then they're like, well, if we want 50 of them, it's going to be 50 times more expensive. That's kind of hard to deal with, because if a client comes to you with a need for 1 or 2 renderings, like, what are you going to do? Charge them $5,000? Like, no one's going to pay that much for one image, unless, I shouldn't say no one, but you're going to get pushback. But in my experience, at least with rendering, a lot of clients are coming here saying like, okay, we have a whole lot of products. We need our whole catalog digitized in one way or the other. And if you give them a price per item and then they look at how many items they have, it's going to be, I'm fumbling my words here, but you really have to consider the volume of the amount of work that they're asking for. Sometimes it's fair to reduce the cost per image every increment of 10 or whatever. The more work someone has for you, the less you're going to charge likely per delivery. But I really try to understand the value of what the need is and make it fair, so the client is paying a fair price to get what they need done, but you're also getting compensated fairly for your time. I think that's the bigger question you need to ask, and not worry about the dollar value. It also depends on where you're located and what the client's used to paying for this type of service. So I'm gonna leave it at that. We could go into depth on pricing in a later live stream. What's my opinion about Upwork or Fiverr? I think that they are fine. I've never used either. Generally, as a designer, I've not liked them in the past, because to me, they seemed, especially in the beginning when all the work was truly $5, it was commoditizing design. And there's a difference between design becoming, what's the word for it? There's a difference between design becoming, the word's escaping me, but like making it like common versus making it a commodity, an undervalued commodity. So if you can get work on Upwork or Fiverr, that's fine. Here's the thing. A lot of people live in places where it's like, let's say a lot of clients are coming out of the UK or the US. and they're used to paying a certain amount of money for work. And let's say you live in a place where the currency, like if 50 or 100 US dollars is going to convert to a high amount of money wherever you live, and you can, if that will allow you to live for a while comfortably, I don't think there's anything wrong with you going ahead and using those platforms to get work and to support yourself. Now in the US, a lot of designers don't like those websites because if I try to go compete with other people on those platforms, my rates are going to be too high and I'm never going to win a job. And if I compete with some of the winning bids, I won't even be able to pay my rent because unfortunately where I live, everything just costs more money. So I think I have nothing against those platforms if you can make them work for you, okay? What else we got? What are my thoughts on working for free? Oh yeah, so the only time I would work for free is if I saw a major gain from it, a major gain. I would need to be confident that it meant repeat work. I would need to be confident that the piece goes in my portfolio. I would need to be confident that I have full creative control over that job. Okay, those are my criteria. If a company says, hey, we're about to get a $2 million cash injection, we don't have the money now, but if you do this work for us, you're gonna win $10,000 worth of work from us for the next 6 months, yes, I would do it for free. If they said, hey, we don't have the money, we're a nonprofit, but we're doing it for this good cause, and I personally believed in that cause, I do work for free for them, and I say, here's the stipulation. I'm going to cut you an invoice. I'm going to show you how much you would have to pay for this if you were a normal client. This way they appreciate your work. And then you say, and the stipulation, the reason I'm giving you this for $0 is because you're going to give me full creative control over how this turns out, and I get to put it in my portfolio right away. Okay, that's the stipulation. It has to be worth it for you in the end. You have to get something out of it. If it's spec work, like, hey, do a project for free, and if we like you, we'll pursue you, that's not strong enough in my opinion. I would not do that work, okay? The big problem with doing things for free is people undervalue what you do. So that's why I always invoice. If I do free work, I invoice and I show them the invoice with how much it costs them and how much it costs me in my time, and then I zero it out so they understand if they come back to me for work, it's gonna cost, and it's gonna cost quite a bit, okay? You just don't want to undervalue your skills if you work for free, okay? So what else do we have on here? Sorry, so how old am I and what's my educational background? So if you want to learn about that, there's a 40-minute video from last week on my career and how I got here. I don't like to say my age. I'm already getting to that point. Let's see. I turned 32 this year. In November, I'll turn 32. I'd like to think I'm still 28. In my mind, I'm forever 28, but no, I'm past that. I'm turning 32. What else? Oh, Alex Green was on. What up, man? That's cool. Sorry, I'm just seeing that now. I've been teaching Rhino and Keyshot. What? So here's a question. I've been teaching my juniors about Rhino and Keyshot. Would qualification help with me being a freelancer for companies? I think what they're asking, sorry if I misunderstand, I think you're asking more about that building authority. And the short answer is yes. I think that if clients do their quick background check on you and you have made it clear that you are an instructor in any degree, I think that can go a long way. I would use words like instructor or mentor or masterclass. I don't know, whatever. The word teaching sounds a little generic. I would try to make it sound a little bit beefier, like more like corporate training sounds better than software teaching. You know what I mean? So just think about that. What else do we have in here? How to get certified in Luxion. Okay, so Keyshot doesn't have any certification program. Sorry, you just have to get good. I like this comment. Since I have a 1080 Ti, I can use NVIDIA RTX to real-time filter out background noise like the leaf blower. I just need to make an edit in the install file to make it work with 10 series cards. I hope that's a joke. I don't quite understand it, but I think it's funny. If you're being serious, my mind's blown and I don't get it, but I love it. Okay. Whew. Lots of nice comments from you guys. Really appreciate it. What else we got going on here? It's gonna begin with freelance, like Upwork. So somebody was asking specifically, should I start in a freelance web site like Upwork, or is it better to go to local businesses and personal web page? I don't think you can afford to not have a website these days. This is pretty important. I think a website or portfolio topic is another good one for a future live stream, but I would say that you really need to have a website, and a professional looking website. Now, does your website need to be flashy? No, everyone's got a good looking website these days. I say you think deeper about your website. It should mirror or, oh, now there's a train. If that wasn't noisy enough yet, there's trains behind me. Okay. Yeah, so I say that your website needs to kind of embody what you believe in and support your work. So if you're someone who's all about minimalism and ideas, like let's say you're an art director, or like a script writer or something, I don't know, your website should be mostly text, and every single word should count. Every single thing on your website should be well considered. Don't put a stupid social counter or a share button or crap that doesn't belong or doesn't need to be there. I think everyone needs to have a really good website. I'm one of the few people who probably think that. I mean, I know people totally do fine on Instagram and all that stuff, but I think you should have a great website. It should be easy to find, and you should share important ideas there, because that's one thing that instills a lot of confidence. It makes you look really professional. The website doesn't have to be fancy. Just make sure it stays up to date and make sure that you communicate good ideas on it, okay? Book suggestion to learn advanced 3D modeling. When I did SolidWorks, there was a guy named Paul Tran in Southern California. I was fortunate enough to get in-person training from him. This is back in 2012 or 13. He makes some books, or at least he used to. I don't know if he still does, but he has books for sale on Amazon. SolidWorks books are like this big. Really, really good. Highly recommend them. As far as like Rhino or polygonal modeling, I'm not sure. I do have one modeling book for poly modeling that I like on my bookshelf. If you go to willgibbons.com/learn, you're going to see links down at the very bottom of that page for recommended books, okay? How much do I earn on average? I right now am earning enough to pay my bills. And let's see, and now I earn more than enough to pay my bills, so that I have money left over that I can put it into a retirement fund, so I can save for my future, as well as invest in future business tools when I need them. Sorry, that's as specific as I can get right now. Look, I'm only 1 year into my freelance career, and my first goal is to make as much money as I was making before I left my last employer. And it seems like this year I will do that. So that's the first win for me personally. Okay, let's see. So a lot of people agreeing with some of these. That's cool. Thank you guys. Thanks for hanging out. Let's see. Designers I follow, man. Oh, where would I begin with that? So I'm in this weird position where I'm not a hardcore product designer. I don't charge clients for designing products. While I went to school for that, I've fallen out of love with that. I'm a pretty hardcore minimalist, and I know that you're like, wait, there's things behind you. You can't be a minimalist. No, well, minimalism is all about removing the superfluous so you can make room for the most meaningful, important things. And for me, I don't own anything that I don't, get personal joy from. And product design's weird. Industrial design's a little weird. By the time I finished my college, I didn't want to design things that people bought. And I didn't want to design products that came out every year that ended up in a landfill. And look, like, I'm surrounded by products. There is a need for it. I get it. But personally, I wanted to create things that weren't physical. It's just not my thing. So I started getting into the rendering work. So a lot of the designers I follow I follow them because they have really good creative, a good handle on things like form and proportion, storytelling, direction, animation, lighting, photography, videography. I follow lots and lots of different people, and I get the most inspiration from designers who don't do the same type of work I do. So without answering that question specifically, I'm going to recommend that you find the things that are most inspiring to you, and then find designers or other artists or professionals who demonstrate the things that inspire you in their own work, and that will make your work more unique, okay? Be careful, don't scroll endlessly on Instagram and Pinterest, because you're going to end up creating the same boring, maybe not boring, but the same old stuff that everyone else is creating, and that's not interesting, okay? Let's see what else we have in here, sorry. We have clarification on RTX voice. Interesting. I will check it out. Thank you very much. How do you know it's time to go freelance? Okay, I mentioned this in the beginning, and I don't fault you if you weren't around in the beginning. It's time. First of all, you have to feel like it. Like, you need to feel like the curiosity and the drive to actually go and check it out, like give it a try. And my early answer was, it's time when someone's willing to pay you for your services. Aim to be at like an 80% proficiency, meaning like 80% as good as what other professional work is being created. Sorry. And basically, the further you are away from the standard level of the work being created by professionals, the less you're going to have to charge, and the smaller of clients you're going to have to work with. Now, if you've been working in the industry for 5-10 years and you've got great skills, but you've just been too afraid, or maybe you've never wanted to try freelance, but now you're deciding it's time, you've got the skill set. You shouldn't jump in charging junior designer rates. Like, you need to start at that mid-level, because don't take a year or two to get charging what you need to charge. Start off by charging what you're worth, basically. Super nice comment from Fernando saying, I helped him graduate on product design with my work here on YouTube. So that's really nice of you. I appreciate it, man. And super, super stoked to hear that. So we got another question. Working professionally in industrial design for 5 years in Queens, so I'm assuming New York. How did you connect with other people in the industry and rendering online or locally? So New York was interesting, man. I love that city. I went into it thinking I was going to hate it, and I did, actually. I didn't like it for the first year, but then by the time I left, I some of my heart is still in New York. I love New York City. The energy, that's the first thing everyone says. It's hard to explain what that means, but when you've been there, you know. The train system, you never feel alone. Even if you're walking around with your headphones in and you're surrounded by 10,000 people who are all doing their own thing, you kind of feel like you're part of this. You feel part of a community, both on a macro and a micro level. It's interesting. So the question was, how did I network? So when I was in New York, I moved there for a job. I was employed by Luxion, and they had an office there. So I moved there, and immediately my job was to get up to speed on Keyshot. And then my old buddy Richard, who worked there, who was teaching me a lot of what I know, he brought me along for what we would call customer calls or visits. So what we would do is we would hit up a customer who we knew uses Keyshot, like an ID firm or a company that has internal design teams, and we said, hey, we got new features in Keyshot. We'd love to show you the latest and greatest. Come by, answer any questions. You have about an hour to an hour and a half that you can block out. 9 times out of 10, they'd be like, yes, we would love you to come by, because we weren't selling them anything. It didn't cost them anything. They just had to find some time. So we would go in, and this is where I got my experience, because it was my job when we got there to run the demo. And I would open up a file and I'd walk through Keyshot and I would give them a high level, like action packed, like here's what I think you're going to get the most use out of in the software, given what I know about your company and the types of products you guys do. And so we repeated that a ton. I went to tons of customer visits where I just did that over and over. And that's how I became really fluent in the software, so I could speak while using it. And that, once I had those down pretty good, then I started doing on-site customer training. So for the next 3 years after that, I would go fly to a company and I would teach them for anywhere between 2 and 5 days with their designers of Keyshot. And I built a network because the company I was working for, Luxion, who makes Keyshot, they were flying me around to their customers to work with them. So I was networking because it was part of my job at the time. And we would go to events and stuff. And when you do the same thing for long enough and you are very consistent about sharing what you do with the world, people start to remember. Here's something interesting. From a marketing study, I think they say a customer needs to have 7 touch points with a company before they are ready to make a purchase. You are no different. If that holds true, that means that a client needs to come across you in one way or another 7 times before they're ready to buy from you. And the more times they can come across you, Instagram, website, email, guest post, Facebook, YouTube, I don't know, whatever, you get the point. The more places they can come across your work or your name, the better. And so I didn't go out on a mission to network with people in New York. It's just that my job had so much face time with people that that's just what happened naturally. So hopefully that answers that question. Someone said they just studied industrial design and have the same feeling about not wanting to create landfill. I get you there. There's a ton of companies that do good work out there. Don't throw the baby out with the bathwater. I think that there's companies like IDEO and other firms that are known for creating more than just products, but they create like systems and frameworks and social design and urban planning and stuff. There's things you can do, I think, with your skill set that aren't product related, but it's going to take a lot of work for you to do some research and network with those companies. Okay. Sweet. Jacob popped in from Buffalo saying that they're behind. That's cool. You can watch this. It'll be live after this thing is wrapped up. After this is live, it'll be on the YouTube channel. Where can you reach out to me directly? Hey, if you go to you either Instagram, I'm at okay, let me rephrase that. At the bottom of the description of this video, you should be able to find all my links, all of my social media and stuff, contact info. You should be able to follow those links to get in touch with me there. Cool. We got one more question and probably have just about time for one more question. So what's my current take on LinkedIn? How often do I blog there? What's my criteria to make something on LinkedIn as compared to social media platforms? Okay. So I really dislike Facebook. I've been off it for almost 10 years. Not that that's like a bragging right, but it kind of, I don't know, I feel like it is. Instagram has become so much like Facebook. Obviously it's owned by the same company, that I am pretty much ready to I can't leave it quite yet because I interact with so many people through stories and stuff, but I really dislike Instagram. There's no, the organic reach is like 10%, and I feel like I'm always being sold something. It just drives me nuts. LinkedIn is one of the last social networks, so to speak, that doesn't have a whole ton of that. Sure, they've got their own algorithms, but I feel like when you post something on there, it's pretty likely to get pushed out to anyone you're connected to. and the organic reach is much better in my opinion. Now, I would say, how is it different? I try to maintain a professional tone. I don't share anything that I don't think people will not get value out of. It drives me nuts when I see kind of clickbaity, spammy posts on LinkedIn. So don't join that cause. Just make sure you post good stuff. Make it relevant to what you want to be known for. That's the big thing. And how often do I post there? Not a ton. I used to post almost daily there. Now it's like once every week or so. Not very often. If I have a new video, I'll share it. If I have something really like big, I'm going to push out on my email newsletter. I may like publish telling people to hop on the newsletter, little things like that. I try to cross-pollinate a lot of my social platforms just to get as many people on the email newsletter, because I think the email newsletter that I've been running, I think that's going to be my main platform here on out. I want my YouTube, my website, and my email newsletter to be the number one way people connect with me. But we can talk about that on a later live stream. Okay. Someone from Mexico would love to live in the US or Canada. What do I think about job offering in the US? Do I have any advice? I don't. I'm sorry. I know nothing about what it takes to get a job in a different country. I wish I did. Oh, somebody was asking about landfill. No, we're referring to when products break and you throw them in the garbage, then they get put in the ground and it's not good for the environment. So I didn't mean like bad projects for the portfolio. Sorry. So somebody else asking questions saying something about they've got a lot of industry cred, but they're facing serious problems. So clients that see my credentials, they think they are not able to afford me, and I get very few jobs because of that. Well, I think that clients who are assuming they can't afford you, I think you need to attract clients who have bigger budgets, to be quite honest. If you have that type of experience, then I would start by reaching out directly to what we call in the US Fortune 500 and Fortune 100 companies. These are going to be companies who have budgets of $20,000 to $200,000, for projects. And it's not that you're going to cost that much, but if people are automatically assuming they can't afford you, then you need to get in front of different clients, I think. And that's a different topic for another time. Ever scout out new clients or cold call? I don't, unfortunately. I assumed I was going to have to. I got so ready when I left my old job to like do outreach, but I've been busy and I've been turning away work and I've not been doing any outreach. So I got pissed off when I heard other people say that, because I was like, oh, nice for you. Must be nice. But here I am, and I've kind of found myself there within a year. And it's just because I put out so much content. I'm easy to find, and people know me for one thing. So that's what leads to that. Okay, guys, I have to get off. I'm sorry. I really want to keep going, but I have a call. Really have to be prepared and on time. Remember, we got to be punctual, so early, and we need to be prepared and organized, all of which I can't do for my call with my client coming up if I don't get off here right now. So stay tuned. If you guys want to know when the next one of these are coming, I know a lot of you are on Instagram, maybe hop on my email newsletter. That's willgibbons.com/subscribe, I think. And that way I will send out an email this weekend, on Monday, and I'll announce the new schedule for this live stream, because I think this is cool. I think we're going to do a lot more of this. And I think it's a great way to connect. And I mean, I want to see this become something bigger than me. So a few of you guys, I'd love to even talk eventually about getting some of you guys on the live stream. What about interview, podcasty type stuff too? Guests. I mean, shoot, I think there's a lot of opportunity to do cool stuff here. So, anyway, really guys, appreciate it. And, whatever you think would make this series cooler, drop comment. Last plug, super good book. Check it out. Links are down below. Okay, guys, until next time, happy rendering.